Hey all, welcome to MojoPlays. Today we'll be looking at the Super Smash Bros. Timeline, piecing together the running story and lore of this platformer party game, which miraculously became one of the most important series in gaming history. Directed and designed by the brilliant Masahiro Sakurai, he has been the mastermind behind every single Smash entry, right down to the very first prototype, which he built and presented to Nintendo. The interactions between these characters is very much Sakurai's interpretation, as we see what a series can become when an artist is given near complete creative control. Join me as we recap the canon events in the Smash Bros. Timeline, from the N64 all the way up to the Switch and the legacy the series has left behind. Super Smash Bros. Seconds into Super Smash Bros. For the N64, we're introduced to a pivotal plot point that drives the entire series. There exist two worlds which the backstory of this fighting game takes place in. A world that much resembles our own, shown as an ordinary bedroom, and the world of imagination, where the characters of established video games come to life in. Orchestrating this meeting of the icons is a shapeless being who only manifests as the Master Hand, a white glove which sets the stage for comical battles. It moves objects from the real world, such as a tissue box and a lamp, then uses the power of creativity to imagine them as battle stages. The room itself the hand is from has a bed with blue sheets, a stereo and loose CD, pencils, books, a desk, and a poster of a retro car. Gender stereotypes say this is probably a boy, but let's wait and see. As soon as the game launches, the hand reaches into a box by their bedside and pulls from it plushy versions of beloved characters. Progressing through the adventure mode and defeating Master Hand reveals the toy once again going limp, presumably being discarded in that moment as the being leaves the room with the thud of a door. As far as antagonists go, this is a pretty interesting one conceptually. You don't face off against a Lord of Darkness like Ganon or Bowser, but instead an entity from our real world when playing as a character. The true identity behind the being and who controls the Master Hand is never fully revealed, but we do subtly follow this person through stages of their life in later entries. It is not too much of a stretch that players have projected this identity to be none other than the series creator, Masahiro Sakurai, since he is solely in charge of orchestrating both the events that take place in the game and the events that allowed the game to exist in the first place. Sakurai made the final call which characters to include and which to cut, like picking toys out of a box, and this is a theme we'll reflect later on as the roster choices become more niche and geared towards Sakurai's particular interests. The plushies of the roster are curiously never seen again as the game's themes become only slightly more mature, so it is entirely possible that canonically these toys are replaced in the real world because that is what is expected of a person when reaching a certain age. Cut to the footage of your Mario plushies and Squishamallows, gosh knows I've got quite the ongoing collection. Super Smash Bros. Melee. Smash Melee hardly needs an introduction. It changed a ton of people's young lives and further cemented the Super Smash canon by introducing lore within collectible in-game trophies. Master Hand's trophy further confirms that he is a symbolic link between imaginary battlefields in the real world, so they've spelt it out for us nice and simple. Again, during the first few literal seconds the game launches, we are presented with some crucial lore significance. We see the arm of the kid from the first game reaching into what we can all assume is a kind of sack or backpack for a Mario figure. Scenes play out across various Nintendo games in the intro, possibly within the mind of the kid, imagining their favorite gaming moments like what would happen if Samus, Captain Falcon, and Fox McCloud all raced as they play with a Mario and Link toy, hereon referred to as trophies. Entering the Extras menu, we learn a few more things about our off-screen character from the real world. Firstly, they are a little bit older now. They must be. They have an allowance in their own money to use at a quote-unquote lottery, which looks a lot like a Japanese-style gashapon machine. Their room has also changed within the collections menu. Instead of a small bedroom, we see a collector's daydream. shelves lined with various consoles, a CRT, some houseplants, and a low table covered in collectible trophy figures. But with all this coming of age has a dark side. Enter Crazy Hand. Crazy Hand is described as Master Hand's counterpart, a destructive force, quote, consumed with that hollow feeling which comes from destroying one's own creations. Obviously, we can infer the kid still has a creative, playful side, but has grown to be a little more destructive with their toys, as hinted at by the bio of Crazy Hand. Once the single-player mode has been completed with a character, we see their trophy dropped onto the same collection table. Again, being discarded or just being played with, we're not exactly sure. And, for a while, that's all we had for a story. Clearly, the world of imagination is growing. Characters can now not only combat each other, but can briefly enter into each other's universes, like the adventure mode's display of Koopa Troopa enemies which anyone can fight. The roster has expanded. The human invisible protagonist pulling the strings has also recently gotten into Fire Emblem, based on who is included, while also cherishing every character that came before, leaving no one out of the fun play sesh. Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Here we go, Super Smash Bros. Brawl introduced a full-on story mode, something we could only dream of at the time, as the characters in the land of imagination interact. The Subspace Emissary was written by Sakurai and Kazushige Nojima, who wrote numerous Final Fantasy games, including FF7, so if you don't already know, the plot compared to what came before at least gets real complicated real fast. Shown as Mario dukes it out with Kirby, the land of imagination has advanced. Characters will meet and consensually battle for a crowd's entertainment. When defeated, a character actually reverts to their toy trophy form. In this universe, it is known as being in a state of complete physical and mental paralysis. The character is not dead, but is essentially turned off and cannot move or think until revived by the touch of another. This seems to be a sort of parallel to playing with toys in our world, as when a toy is put down or away, you're not really playing with it anymore, and it stops becoming a living person in that moment. On a conquest to capture the world of imagination, an even greater force arises: Taboo. He is a bright blue humanoid described as being born in a vastly foreign realm, possessing great leadership powers. Taboo? No name is more suitable, so players are left to decipher whatever that means. Taboo is trapped in subspace, a sort of virtual limbo realm which he cannot leave, thus he enacts a plan to steal parts of the world within subspace bubbles and organize them to his liking. He's sort of like a collector of his own. Taboo first ensnares the master of the world, Master Hand, capturing him with chains of light unbeknownst to Master Hand's usual followers. Using this literal puppet, a lot is set up in the prologue that happens off-screen, but is explained in collectible trophy text. Taboo knows of a floating island called the Isle of the Ancients. This place is filled with advanced technology, such as the Rob the robots, and is most likely where he first encounters Mr. Game & Watch. Manipulating them both under threat of destruction, the Robs begin to build mechanized weapons, such as the subspace bombs and cannons, while Mr. Game & Watch is harvested for a particular substance he is emitting from his body. You see, described in trophy text as a primordial substance, Mr. Game & Watch doesn't just pull the weapons he fights with out of thin air, he actually creates them using this shadowy substance. It is a material that is able to make up life in this world of video game characters. It is most likely pixels themselves. With the power of pixels, also known as shadow bugs, Taboo shapes an endless army identifiable with this purple glow. The subspace army at some point captures a Pikachu to put the evil factory into fully powered operation, and now the stage is set. Various pairs of heroes ally against the rising forces of evil, who begin messing with and trying to capture them. Pit joins Mario, Fox joins Diddy after DK is taken by the Koopa Troop, Ness is taken from Lucas, who joins the Pokemon trainer, Marth, Ike, and Meta Knight have a sword measuring contest, Samus recovers her stolen suit and saves Pikachu from being used as a battery, while Link rudely awakens a napping Yoshi. Meanwhile, the villains have a rogue agent, King DDD. Inexplicably, DD is suspicious of the other overlords taking commands from the hand, and hatches a plan to capture a bunch of heroes on his own, only to safely revive them later by the use of some brooches he designed that reactivate the fallen trophies after a set timer. Could he just have explained this little plan to the heroes? Probably, but no time for that. DDD captures Luigi, a princess, and Ness, equipping them with the life-saving badges. The growing cast must face false versions of each other, made from the same shadow substance. But once finally boarding Meta Knight's ship, Mr. Game & Watch himself is shown to be unaware that he is on the force of evil, and simply needs a little talking to before he too joins the protagonists. Eventually, some of the cast reaches the factory of Rob the Robots, as big bad evil guy Ganon demands the factory blow itself up despite the player Rob trying to get them to resist. The resulting explosion rips a portal large enough for Taboo's super ultimate weapon, the gunship, to emerge, which is able to fire a blast large enough to capture a whole big chunk of the ocean as a test. The heroes were able to board their various ships, and we get an old-fashioned Death Star-style blast-off as the Falcon Flyer, Samus's gunship, the Hakatate ship, and an R-Wing go toe-to-toe with blasts from Taboo's gunship. The dogfight distracts the command of Dorf and Bowser when Kirby comes out of left field riding a Dragoon, saving the day. Then, as the final battle commences, the heroes make their way through subspace itself to stop Taboo. Taboo's power is displayed as he effortlessly KOs both Ganondorf and the bloodied Master Hand, releasing a massive blast known as Off Waves, which instantly defeats all the gathered Smashers. His victory sealed, Taboo begins to forge his own world of collected levels known as the Great Maze. But this is not where our story ends. Dang it, this guy just loves to snack. The heroes are all then revived by each other, and the villains put their disputes aside to enact a revenge on Taboo. Finally busting down the Blue Man's door, he is about to unleash another blast of Off Waves, but not before Sonic. Why Sonic was saved right up until now in the story we can only guess, but players have inferred, being that he was a character from Sakurai's childhood, Sakurai may have felt that by including Sonic and by reaching out to other IPs like Solid Snake, that may have saved his passion for creating this massive entry into the Smash Bros. Series, maybe reinvigorating his spirits, being that this game was actually announced before Nintendo had asked him to dream up another one, then was later threatened into creating it in the first place. Crazy backstory, I know. His wings being broken, Taboo puts up one last fight to seal the heroes away, but is defeated, and the subspace bubbles close, returning the stages to their original place in the world, with the exception of the Isle of the Ancients, a place having been completely destroyed in the process. The Smashers take a long, hard look at the horizon where the Isle used to reside, and nothing but a bright glow shines upon them by the cliffside. So, what in the world did that all mean? It's not entirely clear. While Master Hand represents the creation of ideas as established, and Crazy Hand stands for the destruction of your own ideas, Taboo is a little more complicated. Examining his name and his actions, he seems to represent the human in the real world feeling shamed for still playing with toys at his age, hence capturing and locking the heroes away where they belong, and wrangling his own Master Hand to stop himself from creating these scenarios of play. But there is an entirely separate angle. The digital aspect of Taboo. Taboo being trapped in subspace is an oddity, being that no other character has trouble interfacing with the world of imagination like this. His body resembles strings of code, and his wings, his most powerful weapon, bears a circuit board pattern. The iconic attack itself, named Off Waves, which can one-hit kill all characters in gameplay, is further proof that he can simply turn characters off and render them unable to fight, like the power switch on a remote control. Could he represent the being's new relationship to technology, or Sakurai being ensnared by his own creation? We are only left to wonder. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and Nintendo 3DS. Smash 4, as it's commonly known, stripped back the in-depth lore as we knew it, removing any kind of story or adventure mode like that from Melee and Brawl. The presentation is purely on the fighters, features almost no real-world elements, and is the last game in the series to feature collectible trophies. What we can gather is that we are still following the hidden human protagonist, who now frequents the local game store and has enough of their own money to outright buy whatever they want. Gone are the days of using allowance to occasionally get a figure in a toy machine. We're at the level of having a custom-built table they can display their figures on. Besides that little detail, Master Hand and Crazy Hand can still appear at the end of a classic mode run, implying perhaps they still have time to play with their characters, but having not nearly as much time as when they could dream up elaborate storylines of younger years. Alongside them, a new final boss, the Master Core. Master Core will only appear on higher difficulties and is the entity inside of both Master and Crazy, made of the same shadow pixel material that Taboo used in Smash Brawl for his army. Its body contains several more Easter eggs that hint towards its origins, such as pulsing the Smash logo inside of itself, something it directly created in lore, and using Taboo's off waves if it is not finished after giving the players the chance. Master Core is believed to be the closest form that the human being behind the scenes can take in his world of imagination, entering several phases before revealing the true core. Behind the smoke and mirrors and pixels, this is what the game tells us about the creator of the universe: a simple ball, no music, no timer, and no fighting back. If not destroyed, it gives up and self-destructs. Certainly not the final phase boss of a typical fighting game, as if this character is an open allegory to the real-life director, creator, and game designer of Smash Bros., it only leaves you to wonder what this says about the toll it takes to carry a massive franchise like this on your shoulders. Our characters literally go inside its body and wreak havoc, not too dissimilar from the statements Mr. Sakurai has made himself. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Don't let a single one get away!
Well, we did it, gang. We stopped Taboo. We're happily standing on the cliffside looking towards a brighter future when... Picking up directly after the Subspace Emissary, Smash Ultimate's World of Light mode drops the angelic figure of Galeem onto us, a supreme being able to wipe away the entire cast of heroes in an instant. All but one special boy. The very few cutscenes we get for this board game, like story mode, shows us that fighter spirits are being removed from their bodies and placed into others. The world is torn up and rearranged once again, but to a more successful and irreversible degree. Kirby escapes the wrath of the biblically accurate angel figure and sets off to rescue the souls of his friends, building up a squad as he does so. After bringing the fight to Galeem with your chosen roster, yet another entity appears from the realm beyond, Darkhan. While Galeem is a being of pure light, Darkhan is no surprise a living mass of darkness, and both wield an army of Master and Crazy Hands to destroy each other, despite sharing a common goal: eliminating the heroes. Where Galeem wants to start over, creating its own completely original blend of fighters, Darkhan's only desire is to unmake everything this world has become, leaving behind an empty hole of nothingness. Where we, the audience, are divided is who and what these ultimate final bosses represent. Well, you could say Galeem is the stand-in for the Nintendo company itself, with an army of creatives ready to do their overlord's bidding. That doesn't leave a lot of explanation for Darkhan, the force that wishes this series was lost to time. Remember, Galeem was canonically created due to the Isle of the Ancients, the representation of gaming's past inhabited by only retro characters, aka the experience of a young gamer's childhood. It is because of these ancients, Rob and Mr. Game & Watch, etc., that Galeem is in the position it is today, with all these master hands at their disposal. It is possible that Galeem, like all the final bosses, is yet another final form of the being we've been with since the beginning. the human, alluding to the creator of the Smash universe, Mr. Sakurai himself. This fight may be a representation of the power he has acquired over the success of the series in general. The Ice Climbers Pit, Game & Watch, and others were never highly requested additions, but because he birthed this game from the start, he's always had a lot more say in the creative direction and character inclusions. Rightfully so. Because of this, there may have been some choices he wished he'd made differently, which is what we see Galeem doing, remixing and changing the creative direction of what ended up being the game. Well, Darkon is the dread every creative has, the feeling of giving up and calling it quits even when it's something you love. Only when both bosses are defeated can the player receive the true ending, not the one where the world is restarted, not the one where the world is lost, but the secret ending, in which all the spirits of the fighters are free to become the very DNA of whatever comes next. Yes, the world of imagination is up in the air, in canon as well as in our world. What will Smash Bros. Become, and what battles may or may not await all these fighters in the future? Who knows? There you have it, the entire Smash Bros. Timeline explained, at least with as much clarity as we presently have. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was the perfect end cap on the series. Will we ever have another one, much less one directed by Sakurai? We can only wonder. The man seems like he needs a nice long break though. Our eternal gratitude to everyone ever involved. My childhood Smash Bros. Birthday parties certainly thank you all. Had a favorite boss? Want more smashing content? Let us know in the comments. I've been Josh Chiptroid, and game on!